It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and piercer talk about some of the more common questions that you, as viewers and those that collect tattoos and piercings, may have. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo and the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. We're going to do we posted a comment to our community page on YouTube, and we got a few responses. Thank you very much for those. And we're going to go through some of those questions. Maybe we'll cover them all in this episode, or we might do a part 2. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to answer some questions. Just so you know who's talking today, to my right is Jimmy St. John. He's a tattoo artist at the Skin Kitchen. And directly to my right is Jack Lowe. He is a tattoo artist at the Skin Kitchen and owns and operates it. And then I'm DaVo. I'm a body piercer and own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. Brent's not here today. He's out hanging out with Grandma.
Yeah.
Yep.
Family first.
Birthday party, grandma stuff today.
Yeah, you know, you can't pass off Grandma. There's no way. You don't do that, people. If you ever, Grandma, Mom, Dad, occasionally.
They say for all of them. You don't know how long you're going to have them.
You just say yes to Grandma.
Yes to Grandma.
Yeah. Say yes to Grandma.
Okay, so Jess, what's the first question? And talking to the mic.
Oh, and off camera.
Fire away.
And off camera is Jess.
Okay.
One day we'll get you on camera.
Our
somehow.
busy little helper.
No.
There.
No. All right. First question comes from Alexandra I.
Okay.
How common is the use of topical numbing agents like lidocaine for tattooing? I've heard it talked about, but it doesn't seem common with artists.
That's a good question.
This is a good
because it is becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was a thing called EMLA cream that you had to get by prescription. And every now and then, somebody would have a nice enough doctor that they would use some of this stuff. And it would help-ish, it would it would really, knock the pain down a little bit and all that, but it's hard to say because these people, a lot of times it was their first tattoo, so they'd have no comparison.
Right.
But then as time goes on and tattoos grow in popularity, there's more and more people looking to, make products that we need or can use, and lo and behold, there's a lot of them now. There's a lot of tattoo-specific creams and lotions and potions to use, and some of them, there's kind of two schools. There's the pre-tattoo numbing, which before you go to your artist, typically about an hour before that, you would apply it, wrap it with plastic, and
a hot shower first, open and pores.
Yeah, there's a whole thing to do,
process.
But so they're kind of the pre-workout, and then there's another kind of
numbing agent
class of numbing agent that is meant to be used once the process is already started and the skin is open, almost like a Bactine, if you've ever.
That's what we used to use when I was starting out.
Right, and that was something that was used too before a lot more of these products come out. So, and there's a bunch of them, and I've had more success with some than others. I always tell my clients, hey, if it's going to make you sit better and be more comfortable and have a more enjoyable experience,
even if it's placebo,
please feel free to use it. I don't discount it at all. I mean, so you kind of have to do a little research, see what works and all that. But as far as the popularity of it and how often people use it, I think you've got the purist type of artist side that says, no, it has to hurt or it doesn't count. And then you have the other side that's like, hey, if it's going to make this process better and more comfortable, why not?
It's going to ease my mind because I don't feel like I'm torturing you,
Right.
But I've noticed since like facial tattoos have become a thing, like for permanent makeup and eyebrows. That's really where the numbing creams really have started to come out a lot.
That's a good point.
They use that a lot.
Yeah, because I mean, if I was a woman and I was going to go get my face tattooed, and I knew that they had something that was, I mean, I'd more likely do it, obviously, if I knew it was going to be numb. So that's you're probably right, because the cosmetic tattooing has become so huge. Yeah. You'd probably be surprised how many people that you run into in a daily walk around the city that have their face tattooed. So
Couple things first off, that original stuff you were talking about was designed, they would put it usually in dental, and they would put it in the mouth where it's a more, it's a mucous membrane. It's going to absorb it faster.
More of a topical.
And they would also use it as kind of a precursor to doing injections of lidocaine or novocaine if you were getting stitches or something like that.
Right.
So I don't know how effective it really was because nobody ever used it on me. They'd ask, and I would just be like, just put the needle in. So to me, in those applications, and especially with piercing, you're doing all this work for something that's going to take a split second.
Right.
Now with tattooing, where you're looking at working on somebody in some cases 7-8 hours, I can see it. And I've noticed just from the people that, I observe, when you guys are using it and so forth here, I've increasingly started to see it move away from these people that are getting their first tattoo to more people that have experienced it and understand that they have a breaking point at like 4 hours where they just can't freaking take it anymore.
And they want to prolong that time in the chair.
Yeah. Or they're working at one of those spots that we all, as heavily tattooed people, dread.
And that's a good point because people's tattoos are just getting bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
awesome.
Back when back in the day, it was pretty rare, at least in this city in Des Moines, Iowa, that you would have someone come in and want a sleeve.
Yeah.
Especially like a younger person. And it was rare. Like if you were working on a sleeve, that was kind of, on your mind. That was kind of the A1 piece. And when you got it finished, you took more pictures than you could ever imagine. And it was like a big deal. Now it's very rare if someone comes in and just wants something small and is planning on stopping at that.
Yeah.
That's just been my tiny little pixel experience. I mean, I know that there's millions of me and there's millions of cities, but so with people wanting these bigger, more elaborate pieces, really, that makes sense. That and the makeup tattoos and all that stuff. I mean, you almost couldn't have this industry kind of blowing up.
Yeah. And one thing I'm going to point out is just as a word of caution is if you are going to use one of these products, patch test it somewhere on your body before you go in and get tattooed with it.
Yeah, if you're
just to make sure that you don't have an allergic reaction that's in it.
Especially if you're that type of person that always seems to kind of break out if something changes. I mean, that's a good idea. And if you've never been tattooed before and you're kind of that person, you can. A lot of times an artist will do, a little test on you, just do tiny little circles on you somewhere out of the way and see how it goes. Cause that can be, your foot's not going to fall off. The worst that is going to happen is, you get a little dry spot and gets itchy and stuff like that. But, that is it's rare, but if you're that type of person that really wants to get tattooed, but you're kind of leery because of that, I would say stick to just black. Don't get any color, and have your artist just do a tiny little. I mean, it's maybe 5 times the size of a period at the end of a sentence, just on your out of the way somewhere. See how it goes. Yeah. Then and you're good to go from there. And
just a little dab of water and do it.
If you no, I'm talking about being allergic. Like DaVo was talking about the cream maybe testing. That just made me think. Well, that can be done too with the tattoo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we don't want a situation where you go in for your first tattoo and then you have allergic reaction, and the tattoo is.
But then you've got this big thing instead of I've got this little spot that can be removed, zap and done.
Like I said, a patch test.
Yeah, and make sure you follow instructions. A lot of people a big thing is you have to get the pores open for the stuff to work.
Yeah.
So you need to really what my process is, I take a good hot shower as hot as I can stand. I have the stuff in the bathroom. When I get out and dry off, the first thing that goes on me before anything else is that cream. And then I wrap it with saran wrap to keep the pores open so it absorbs. I've had a lot of people just I just slapped it on the way over here and didn't wrap it or nothing. And it doesn't work. I'm like, well, there's no way for it to be absorbed into the skin to allow it to work. You have to follow the instructions.
Yeah, that penetration is important.
If you just slap it on and don't wrap it and just walk, it's not lotion. It doesn't just automatically absorb and work.
It's just going to end up on your clothes and everything.
Exactly.
There's three things to remember with that stuff to get it to work really well. One, you want to have that skin as available as possible. You want that skin to just be open and ready for business. So taking a washcloth and warming it up under some hot water, not hot enough to burn you, obviously, and holding that over the area until it gets warm and redoing that a few times to get those pores open is very important. The second is don't be stingy.
Yep.
The stuff it can be a little expensive, but you get what you pay for. Put a glob of that stuff
Yeah,
on there, like
get a layer.
almost not be able to like see your skin through it is good. You want a lot. And then the third thing is wrap it up. You don't want air to get to that medicine because air destroys the effectiveness of that medicine.
and oxidizes it.
Right.
And,
So
yeah.
so you want to wrap it up good and do it about an hour or so, depending on the directions and what you're using. But usually it's about an hour before you go to your appointment. Wear that to the appointment and have your artist remove it right before they start the procedure. And you're going to get the best numbing and the longest possible numb out of it.
And a side note, do not leave it on longer. It doesn't work better if you leave it on longer. We tried that.
Yeah.
I wore some to a show one time we filmed, and I think we filmed like 3 episodes that day, so we spent like 6 hours in here. And I was thinking, man, this stuff's going to be really, 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 really numb. It was done being numb because it was numb while we were filming.
Right.
But by the time we started tattooing, I was like, oh my God, like it was horrible.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, what do you think the lifetime effect of it is?
If you do it about an hour before you come to your appointment, and you get started fairly quickly, when you get here, you got about, I'd say 3 to 5 hours roughly of getting tattooed.
Because
before,
that
it
does
starts
make a
getting
difference.
Yeah, it starts getting.
Yeah, it's going to be different, and depending on the spot. Some
Depending on
spots
the
are
spot,
way more
people-
resilient to it. The thicker the skin, the more, outer forearm, like the skin that sees a lot of action, you're not going to get as much numbing out of it.
not at all.
But those tender spots, which is great because those tender
those are
spots,
the ones we hate.
thinner
They're
skin,
the ones that hurt.
yeah, you get that opened up and you'll get some good numbing. And the cool thing is if you do it right, and depending on the type of tattoo you're getting, black and gray, the after you get started stuff, depending on the process the artist is using, doesn't work quite as well.
Right.
But on color tattoos, it's great because you're layering a lot and you're kind of going around in this same area and it's already opened up. So the after you get started stuff, if
pretty
you
good
piggyback, when you start getting a little, about into 3 hours, 4 hours, just start using the numbing stuff. Don't, stay ahead of that pain a bit, and you can, extend that pre-numb a
If you
couple
bring it with you,
hours
your
or
artist
more.
can actually use it like in place of A&D and just, it's the
Right.
Just be
skin,
careful.
the skin moisturized with it.
The things I would tell them is make sure you wash your hands before you open the container,
Well, yeah.
and make sure that you use something other than your fingers to apply.
Yeah, use a
tongue depressor.
stick.
or
Tongue
something like that.
depressor would be awesome, or a cotton tip applicator or something.
I like tongue depressors.
That's what
They're
I do.
tongue
You don't
depressors
lose any
are
in the
awesome.
cotton.
Yeah.
We had that come up with our guys, our buddies from South Dakota that came over, Nick and Austin, that came and visited us. And they drove all day to get here to bring Jack his Jeep. And they had quite the adventure. And when they got here, they were pretty wore out. So it made, when you're tired and wore down, it makes getting tattooed way
Hard.
more intense. But we put some numb stuff on them. Well, we gave it to them and told them to put it on. And I go in the break room and they're eating chips and stuff, and they're like just smeared on like lotion, And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, it'll work." I'm like, "No, it doesn't work that way." No, we got it. And I'm like, "Okay." So they did it, and we tattooed them. They were like, "Oh my God, it hurts. It doesn't work." And I'm like, "I know, I told you." So the following end of that week, we tattooed them again, and we tattooed them like almost 12 hours.
Yeah, a lot.
That day, and we took them in there, and I got hot water, and I made them get it, hot rags, and keep putting it on them till their skin was like little red, pinkish, and then we slathered it on, then we wrapped it. And then when they started getting tattooed that time, they were like, "Are you even touching me?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't even feel you. Like,
They were blown
it was
away.
awesome.
Yeah, he just kept remarking. He's like, I don't feel it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Almost like he had this look on his face like he was cheating on
Yeah.
him, like he was getting away
Like,
with
I
something that
shouldn't
he
be able to
shouldn't.
not feel this.
And I think that's great for the
It's
artist
awesome.
side.
Okay. And then of course I know that there are some shops that are gonna or studios that are gonna charge for it.
Oh, I imagine.
And I've always been a
sure.
little skeptical when it came to piercing, mainly because I don't really see it causing that much of a difference.
Yeah.
Because you're only making one incision.
Yeah, it's quick.
It's quick, it's over with, and usually it can affect placement and so forth because it does cause a little bit of
swelling
inflammation.
or
And
yeah.
piercing
Yeah.
is so deep. Like, you would have to have almost like an injection numbing something to.
The only thing that would
numb it.
really
Yeah.
work, as I always tell them when they ask about it, is an injection of lidocaine or novocaine.
Right.
Yeah.
And the injections, well, you could put the numbing cream on there. That might reduce how much it hurts, but the injections would hurt more than the piercing
Yeah.
would.
I've had as far as the charging thing, I've had clients that will talk about it, and I'll say, look for it out there, and they'll buy it. They'll put on the pre stuff, and I've had a couple of them bring me the during stuff, and I just have that bottle,
I'll use theirs.
at the studio while we're working on that piece for however long it may be. So I don't have like for this much.
Yeah,
we'll
see,
numb ya.
that's kind of what
Yeah.
I want people to kind of avoid, because we've all heard the stories of, it's $20 to numb your tongue out before we do it,
Yeah.
and all
Yep.
they do is they put it in that
Baby
$3
Orajel.
bottle of
Ambisol.
baby, yes, and charge you $20 for.
I saw a shot
Right.
do that one time, and of course, when the Orajel it numbs anything it touches.
Yeah.
So when you pierce, when you got a needle slathered in it, and you pierce like a tongue or something, when it goes through, it's getting that Orajel all over it. Well, it still hurt, but it's numb now afterwards because you got Orajel in an open wound. Like,
Yeah,
come on, man.
it's not going to save you from that intense initial bite,
No.
but it
not at
might
all.
numb out the
Yeah.
20 minutes after. But
Which
know.
usually only lasts a few minutes.
And,
Yeah, that's not
and
bad.
just like any medicine, there is an amount of placebo effect.
Absolutely.
So, and nobody can discount that for an individual. If it works for you, it works.
Yeah.
And use it. If it doesn't work for you, hey, bummer. Try a different one. I
It
guess.
worked for my lower stomach. Like when you went around my belly button and stuff, man, thank God.
Yeah, it
We
really
had that stuff.
it
was
can be
horrible.
a lifesaver.
All right, so you think we got that covered?
I think
pretty
that was
good?
I
pretty
think we beat it to death. Yeah.
Jess, may we have another question, please?
May I have another?
Sure. Mars Nova asks, what's your most popular and least popular piercing at your shop?
Huh.
Take it away, Dave.
Probably the most popular that we do consistently over and over and over and over again is nostril piercings. They are by far probably the most common piercing. And that goes through trends. And then probably second would be upper ear cartilage or ear style work. That's the second one. And then probably nipples after that. Though I've started to see navel start to pick up again.
Oh, cool.
Which is cool. They're just a fun piercing to do. If you can heal it out, they can be a beautiful accent. Least, I don't know. I guess there's some female genital piercings that we don't get requested to do very often. For example, labia piercings. I do maybe 2-3 a year comparison to what we, like vertical clitoral hoods and stuff like that. Scrotum piercings on men is just not nearly as popular as it once was. As far as facial piercings, eyebrows maybe, but they're starting to come back again too.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've done 24 or
wow.
dozen probably this month alone.
Wow.
Because I was suddenly why are we out of 16 gauge 5/16 and 3/8? And I'm like, we've been doing those.
That's cool. I didn't know they were coming back.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Me either.
And then, so it really and a lot of it comes down to who's getting them. If you have just like with tattoos and designs, if you have a celebrity that's out there getting that piercing and is very visible or talks about it, or you see them over and over again, then suddenly we'll have an influx. Because I've noticed the trends through ethnic groups has changed. And through what's considered male and female piercings now is not as set. Like only women get this and only men get this. There's still a little bit of that, but not to that point.
That's cool.
So yeah, I think I'm trying to think of what the least. I'm trying to think of a piercing I haven't done in a while. You got one?
I got one. Male navel piercing.
That is pretty darn rare. And it's usually done. It just seems like it's done either by somebody that is very happy with their body, which is great, or it's done by somebody as a joke.
Yeah.
More commonly, I will never forget. I had these 3 good old boy, drive the truck. They probably have the truck that blows coal, the whole 9 yards, and they giant belt buckles. And they were in town for I think a rodeo, if memory serves correctly. And they're all from some small town, and they're the wild, crazy, wacky kids in that town, and they all got their navel pierced. And they all wanted the shiniest, brightest, most Jimmy
that's awesome.
kind of thing. And it was kind of like, okay, that's kind of silly, but at the same time, it's kind of like
Having fun.
they're owning it.
Yeah.
And they're in their own way, they're kind of messing with the gender stereotypes even more. I think one of the reasons why a lot of men don't get it done is they don't really look at their stomach as sexy
No.
Yeah,
the way
it's-
women do.
Yeah, it's not a part of our lure.
There's
so
no
to speak.
ring on a pony keg or nothing.
Yeah, and
You
that
know,
we
you don't
all
need a
kind of
handle
have
on
that little sag. The other thing is that most of the naval jewelry is just very
Very
feminine.
Feminine.
I don't know how else to put it. Not to assign that you have to have shiny stuff, but I mean that is the direction that stuff has always gone.
Yeah.
Mainly because a majority of the people getting naval piercings
women.
Are
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, why are you gonna make something for somebody that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think they
makes
make
sense.
like a Viking navel ring.
Yeah, they
I'm
should
sure
though.
they did.
I'm
I'm sure they did. I'm just teasing them, making fun.
Yeah, it's just like septums. I know the reason why we rarely ever did septums was suddenly the industry came out with a bunch of very beautiful
Yeah, septum
pieces
rings.
to put in septums because before that it was ring, circular barbell.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
look like a bull.
And you want to get it as big as possible so that it hits your lower lip.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
I
You want to
have-
break some front teeth out on that.
Yeah,
More
make
people
sure.
ask me about my septum than anything else. Like the tattoos on my face,
Yeah.
nothing.
Weird.
But we'll be standing somewhere, they're like, did that hurt? And I'm like thinking they're, talking about my face, and they're like, this, and I'm like, no, actually, that was the least
I
painful
think
thing I've had.
it's mainly because people assume that it goes through this really super.
Well, I thought it would be awful. I was terrified of it when we did it, but I found out it wasn't bad at all.
And by the way, I didn't mention like the rare piercings that you do, maybe one every,
Yeah.
like translobes and rhino piercings and stuff like that, where you're just not going to have somebody that comes in off the street to ask for it.
Not in this market.
In this market, I don't any market.
Yeah, they've
Well,
never
I
really
could
been
see
popular.
they probably do more in a big
Yeah.
crazy city than us. But
Maybe.
from your perspective,
Yeah, from that perspective, and the fact that I tend to be a little bit more on the conservative side when it comes to doing wacky and crazy things. I
Right.
don't want to make somebody's beauty decrease by something
Absolutely.
I did. And I'm not saying that's the case with people that do it because there are people that it looks great on or
Yeah.
what have you.
Right.
But there's a majority of people
Right.
that it's like, nah, I don't think that's going to work with you.
Yeah.
But I'll do it if you definitely want
Sure.
to. Now I lost my train of thought again.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then there's the things that people just don't have the anatomy for. There's
Right.
just certain
Well,
piercings
yeah.
we can't do because you don't have the anatomy for it.
right,
just
you don't
nature.
you don't have that wrinkle that I need to put the
Put the
Yeah.
whole thing, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, man.
yeah.
And it'll go through these I know what I was going to. It like just with like the popularity of any piercing, somebody will have it and they'll be on Instagram and they've got 100,000 followers. So suddenly I've got 15 calls a day asking if we do
Yeah.
it. And even then, if I say I do it, we'll get 1
Yeah.
out of 20, maybe.
People are just curious,
Yeah, and usually they're people that don't have any other piercings. So I kind of try to kind of steer them away from it from the standpoint of it's an extreme, in most cases, situations. Like a rhino having a piercing in the center of your nose. And it's a more difficult piercing to heal, so it's more advanced, and you're doing it on somebody that's never, like, maybe they've gotten their earlobes done when they were 10. They have no idea what it's going to be like to heal that, what kind of effect they're going to have from their friends and relatives, the stigmatism that's still there, regardless of what anybody claims.
I can't imagine how much stuff you hang it on either.
Yeah,
God.
and just isolating the front of your face.
Would that be more likely to cause, say, if you wanted to remove it later, a scar?
Yeah.
Yeah, a very
that's
visible
and that's a
scar.
common misconception, especially with people that are new to piercing, that, if I don't like it, I'll just take it out.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many people walking around with rejections on their eyebrows with a line scar through the middle of their eyebrow
Yeah.
and giant indentations on their lower lip, is because they had this misconception that they would get this done when they're in high school and their parents let them do it, and now they're an adult and they have scarring all over their face. The same thing goes, I had a client just the other day who works in the cosmetic surgery industry. I believe she said she was a surgical nurse, but anyway, she said their most growing part of the industry has been repairing stretched
Ears.
earlobes.
I knew it.
I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah, and that's not popular anymore.
No,
You do not see stretching of lobes
Not like they used to be.
ever now.
They used to get huge, and you had to get them clipped off.
You
and sewn
couldn't
and all
you
that
couldn't get on the internet or open a tattoo magazine without seeing somebody that could put their forearm through their ear.
stuff. Yeah,
you know?
huge.
yeah, you couldn't go to a hardcore show or a
Nope.
punk show or even a metal show,
Yeah.
any
You could
genre
put a
of
beer
music
can in them damn things.
without a giant, everybody in front of you has giant fucking
Yeah.
clay things swinging back and forth.
Ran its course, I guess.
And what I'm saying more, it's kind of going back to the enthusiast side of it that it was when it started, because and hopefully this gets away from all the bad habits that thing created, because when stretch years became popular, that's when I started seeing more scarring. I saw kids pushing things. I saw more burnouts. I saw more problems because they'd get on the internet, and the guy on the internet said, hey, I went from 20 gauge to quarter or half inch in 6 months. This is how you do it.
No.
You know, and then,
everybody's so different. I remember when I was stretching my ears a bit, I had a friend that we were kind of neck and neck when we started, you know, about the same sizes. I'd have to wait a month plus before I could even think about stretching. He could stretch maybe every week or few days, it seems.
Skin.
He just had a different skin than I did, and he was able to stretch his ears way easier without near the problems I would tear and all this stuff. So it just because a guy on the internet did it
doesn't mean you can do it.
One of the things I used to bug manufacturers about, and they'd get annoyed by it, is they always sell plugs in pairs. They refuse to sell them individually, most of them. The good ones, anyway.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that your ears stretch at different
intervals.
So, yes, your right might be okay for, you know, a 14 millimeter, but your left is still stuck at 12.
Yep.
So why can't I get a matching set that's 13 and 15 or whatever, and continue to look symmetrical to a degree and get to my goal and then start.
That's the way my ears were, because I pierced my left ear myself with a safety pin, you know, and then I had my right ear professionally done. So my left ear, one of them anyway, stretched easier than the other, and I ran into that too. One ear I'd get in fine, and the other one I'd struggle, and then end up messing up and have to start over again.
I used to do the same thing.
Yeah,
and the end result is the flappy lobes.
Yep.
And also the hemorrhoid. Cat's asshole looking starch when you put it out. And if you're dressed, I don't care, it's like putting, you know, lipstick on a pig. I don't care how professional you dress to go, you get that job at that Fortune 500
Especially when you take the jewelry out.
Yeah.
It's just fucking dangling. It's horrible.
I remember I think it was my grandmother's funeral. I started taking all my jewelry out, and my mom looked at me and goes, she loved you the way you are, and you look disgusting without your jewelry.
There you go.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'll mirror it.
I worked with a dude in Richmond. His earlobes were so big, Nick could take and put like a soda can in his earlobes.
Right.
And when the winter would come, he'd ride like a motor scooter or something. And like he'd have a little helmet and stuff. But when he was from Buffalo, New York. And when he came down to like Richmond, we do have like a month of cold weather. Not like they do, but like being out here, he would have to take his earlobes and wrap them over top of his ear and then put earmuffs on, because the bottom of your, once you stretch it, it's so thin, there's no blood flow. And you'll get frostbite in a heartbeat.
Oh,
man. And then you got to clip them off. Then you really look weird.
You have a squared off.
Yeah, you got a squared off ear, like your jawline. Like,
What I don't like about it is like, and I think maybe one of the reasons why it's not as popular as it once was, is it just blocks off that area. You can't do anything else there. It's kind of like when you guys talk about when somebody wants to do an armband in the middle of their forearm. It's like, that's it. This area's done, closed for anything else.
Well, it's going to separate. Like if you got two pieces of work and you put an armband in the middle of your arm, they don't look cohesive anymore because there's a big black border between the middle of them, like Berlin back in the day. You know?
It's funny because I was just working on a really awesome client of mine, and she is just been chasing her own tail trying to work around this band that she got, and it just wrecked everything, you know.
It's there.
It destroys the flow. But you know, like with tattoos lately, blackout tattoos are becoming more and more popular. I don't know. I don't understand it personally either. It's like if you get tattooed and you don't like it, there's a couple options. You can laser it because it's, you know, laser's down a little lighter and do something else, or you can cover it up, and you can cover something up and change it pretty drastically. But once you black it,
that's it.
There's no, like, it's going to take forever to get it lasered because it's all solid black. You ain't covering it up. You ain't putting nothing on top of it. You ain't, like, it's, you went to the last page.
Maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
Maybe
they're saying, hey, look, you got tattoos, but I ain't getting out of, you know, I'm more committed, or
like, to me, that's more permanent. Like the stuff that I have, I don't feel as near as permanent as if I blacked my arms completely out.
That's an interesting
Here's
angle.
the thing and I know it's totally off subject as we usually do.
Sorry.
Here's the thing I think about.
Ooh, shiny.
Is how each tattoo simulates or represents part of my personality a part of my life story.
Yeah, you're like a travel
So
trunk.
you just have one solid piece of
Yeah.
color.
You've blacked everything out.
That's kind of boring.
Yeah. Well,
And maybe it's me. I get the negative and positive and abstract look
Right.
of it and everything else, but it just looks like and it reminds me of people that had really bad sleeves.
Yeah.
Where there were so many small things that it just all blended together into
ran
one
together.
big.
Maybe that's their statement. It's a like anti-tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not interesting. It's nothing. Stop giving a
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You know, like
Maybe.
people.
I don't
People.
know. I'm not going to
people's
say
brains-
don't do it.
I'm
if
not.
Oh, yeah.
There's no.
want.
I'm not saying anything negative about it. I just for
No,
me,
no, no,
like
I
with
know.
DaVo,
I don't know.
I'm just trying to.
people are always like, used to back in the day, you would always hear, well, my tattoos have to mean something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, like I didn't get
But they're
tattoos so
afraid
much
of
that
their-
meant something, but
they're-
like
they're
every
afraid of
tattoo I
regret.
have, I can tell you who did it, where I was at, what was going on in my life. It was like a timestamp.
All of them mean something.
So in turn, they all mean something.
and I
Right.
look cooler with it.
Well, yeah.
But
and I
mean,
enjoy it. But
That's
to black
more of a
them all out,
regret thing
it's like-
because they're looking down the road and
Yeah.
they're seeing themselves going, "Oh my God, what did I do?"
Right.
So, but if
That
it's for
sucks.
grandma, then hey,
Yeah.
it's for grandma, so you can't pick on me for it.
Right.
You know,
even though it's a half naked
Everybody-
lady.
I feel like
Right,
you're going
right.
It's grandma.
Can you sneak my grandma's name in there
Can you
somewhere?
put
like-
grandma over it?
I feel like you're going through like your photo album of all your memories,
Yeah.
and you're making every picture the same picture.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
it's
kinda.
And kind of in some sense, you're just kind of blanking it
or
all out.
you're having
or
a
you're throwing them all
blackout.
out. Yeah.
I think it's a statement.
It is a
I think it
statement,
is
but-
a statement. I think it's.
I don't know. It's just
I don't know.
different to me.
I would
that's
have
all.
to think long and hard. I mean, long and hard to consider even doing
Well,
someone's.
And some of the misconception is the people that get like the really cool like geometric designs in them. You got to think about that before you black it out,
Yeah.
because you don't black it out and then come back over it like a wall and paint the geometric and white on top of it, because that ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna show up. You have to plan out what you want in that negative space now before we black it out.
But see, I think that's when they're best is when there's a negative area.
Yeah,
that has
something design in it.
interesting
That's
in it,
really cool.
and it stands out. But it has to also be enough negative space
So you notice it,
that
balance
it
it.
actually
and it doesn't
balance
run
out.
together when you get old.
And it should be something that if you were out that you can see
Yeah.
with clothing on,
Not just the black.
not
Right.
just like the tail end of the sprocket
Yeah.
here and
Well, if we all like the same crap, there wouldn't be a million different cars.
Exactly. It would be really boring if we
You
all did
know,
the same thing. So,
I-
I mean,
I'd like to, and you know what? I bet if you got 10 people in the room that have a blackout done, they'd all have different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I've done
Who
a few.
knows?
I don't mind. I was just curious. So if anybody out there knows or has a response to that, I'm kind of curious.
Sure we can get some.
if you have a
comments.
blackout, why did you get your blackout?
Yeah, thank you.
know, and because it's
I'm
like I
just
said,
curious.
it's probably going to be different than anybody else.
Yeah.
Did you
I
feel
don't-
like you time traveled afterwards?
Yeah, that would be
thinking-
interesting.
See, she got the joke.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
Blackout, drinking,
Oh, the
got you.
time travel.
Got you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so now that and we'll just finish it up with this, and we'll go on to more questions in the next episode. What do you think are the most popular design ideas right now, or style, and least of tattooing at this moment?
The least would be the 90s tribal, I would say. And like, lower back tattoos, they got the awful name tramp stamp.
Ass handlers.
They're beautifully aesthetic tattoos, though.
They're
It's
beautiful.
a shame. It's a shame they got
love them.
labeled because they were beautiful tattoos on some people's bodies, I
Yeah.
thought.
Yes, they fit so well.
What would you say is the most popular, Jack?
I was just thinking, I do stuff that's family oriented a lot. People that want to get sleeved out with things that represent their family, their heritage, and maybe their hobbies and likes and their passions. So, being in the Midwest in Iowa, I do a lot of down home, hunting and barns and fences and landscapes
Which
have been really,
translates
really
beautiful.
popular, just beautiful landscapes with trees, open spaces. That seems to be kind of a genre or a thing that I'm doing a lot. And then Roman, Greek, strong kind of masculine, even Japanese style with, dragons,
Right.
I've
just
seen a lot of mythology types.
yeah, mythology. I guess the best way to say it. So those things, at least
Cool.
on my palette, that and floral is just
Yeah, florals.
always. I hope is going to be
too.
popular. I
Ever
guess.
beautiful.
die? I mean, it just looks
I
so
hope not.
good.
It's beautiful. I hope it
Yeah.
never goes away.
No,
I know I give Brian a
timeless.
lot of crap about him because every week it's
Yeah,
a tattoo.
flowers.
Flowers.
Yeah, but
But
there's
They're
billions.
so aesthetically
so
beautiful.
wonderful
billions
and
of
so much to
different-
work with.
Yeah, Mother Nature she's the king. She is
Yes.
the unruling, unbeatable, designer of beautiful things. She's it. And to
Right.
copy that, you can't go wrong.
Oh no,
Anything is she.
I don't think that something like that's just such a classic
Yeah.
thing.
I've been doing a lot of horror stuff, like
Yeah.
horror characters, apocalypse, 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and kind of stuff like that, which I love.
Yeah.
I love anytime I get to do.
Hoodie goes.
Hoodie Ghost, yeah. Boris Vallejos and Norman Rockwell's or Michelangelo's and Renaissance stuff. Like, I love that kind of art anyway.
And
So
another
to do it's a lot of fun.
one other thing that I'd throw in there is very popular right now is like pro America type things.
Yes.
A lot of
Those
eagles.
are getting very popular.
A lot of war memorial type things like that is just a
which is always
popular thing
great.
too. So yeah, if that gives you
That's
a
a
good
ton of
All right, I think we've done these 2 questions pretty well. And so all I have to say is if you like this, enjoyed it, subscribe where you're at. If you're listening to this or watching this, comment on the YouTube channel is usually the best bet. That's
especially you
where I see-
blackout people.
Yeah, 'cause we'd like to hear
I wanna
about
hear.
that. And check out our merch store. Till next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we would all love to see you for your tattooing and body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Thank you for watching or listening.
Be good, guys.